Well, good evening. This is the Board of Health meeting, Town of Norfolk, on August 22nd, 2019, 7 p.m. I call the meeting to order. I'm pleased to say we have no public hearings this evening, but we do have a few pieces of new business and old business. Why don't we begin with some old business and discuss regulations of the Norfolk Board of Health restrictions on the sale of tobacco products. We have with us some old friends who have some things to say on this topic, I do believe. Would you care to begin, Doctor?
Happy to. I would just...
You gotta introduce yourself first.
I'm Dr. Lester Hartman, a pediatrician at Westwood Mansfield Pediatrics. I was very actively involved in the Tobacco 21 campaign, and now very avidly involved in the flavor banning of tobacco and vape products. And I live in Needham, the first town in the country to go to 21. If you don't mind, I hope I'm not imposing, I would like to get each of your impression of what your thoughts are, given what the news has been doing on vape, and your impression of how you think the FDA is handling this situation right now. Would you mind, is that imposing if I ask for each of your thoughts on this?
It's a fair question.
So,
Anybody care to respond? Fran?
what the FDA is doing is nothing at this point in time, and yet CDC, it appears, is reporting lots of cases of respiratory distress among young people, and they don't know the etiology of it, but historically, in conversation with these young people, they are finding out that there's a common thread of vaping. So kind of what I've been paying attention to in the news these days.
And the FDA has the ability to pull these things from the market if they wanted to. That's the thing to keep going. CDC doesn't do that. That's the key thing.
I was also interested to discover, because I had done some research, that the FDA actually doesn't consider e-cigarettes as a smoking cessation product. So I thought that that was really interesting. So they're marketing themselves as a smoking cessation product, but the FDA does not consider it. And again, many articles about all the different chemicals that are in the vapor, the popcorn lung, all sorts of terrible things that are causing respiratory disease. And the fact that nicotine is addicting and changes their brain patterns, and it's dangerous if it breaks open and like a pet eats it, and veterinarian, that's a concern for me. So, yes.
So just to give you a quick update, and Sarah, if I got the number wrong, let me know. There's a little over 160 towns who have done the flavor restrictions right now, but exempt mint and menthol, of which now there are 12 towns that have actually, starting with Ashland and Needham, Somerville first, rather, Ashland and Needham, that have now gone and restricted or banned mint and menthol. Because the number one Juul product, which is 80% of the market now, mint flavored, is because they said they'll pull everything out but mint and menthol, which was the same strategy in 2009 when they got mint and menthol exempted as well. Can I hear, if you don't mind, do you want to say anything or not?
Well, I'll just make one little additional point, and that is you asked about FDA. And I had a sense for a while there FDA was really going to take a lead in this area. And then there was an administrator change.
Scott Gottlieb.
And that seemed to take the wind out of those sails.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate, obviously.
Well, little known fact that's not really coming out now is the AAP, the American Heart Association, the AMA sued the present administration for not allowing the regulation that was supposed to start in 2018 on e-cigarettes and delayed it till 2021 or 22 now. So, that's not much in the news, but then there's been a court settlement that they need to start looking at regulating now. But given the way the adherence has been to court decisions, I'm not so sure there's any hurry in adhering to this one. Let me give you, if you don't mind, we submitted this to all the senators and representatives in Massachusetts House and Senate on the first one's a one-pager, and I'll go through it with you. But this is about, oh, sorry. Oh, I missed you, sorry. And then, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, as well. So I just wanted to go through this to reiterate, you know, and if you don't mind, I'll just buzz through this, and if I'm taking too much time, please stop me.
I'll let you know.
So, this is the sheet that we've developed that actually Ariana Presley, who my associate in this was on the Hill testifying against the gentleman on the back page here, Mr. Monsees, who's the chief product officer who helped develop the jewel, which I nicknamed Chief Poison Officer. And one of the reps did say that. But by shutting down flavors, we are protecting children. 78% rise in e-cigarettes in adolescents in the last year. Flavored cigarettes, as you know, were banned in 2009. Why aren't we doing something with this now? And unfortunately, mint and menthol. What is the purpose of mint and menthol? They tend to start you getting addicted. Menthol numbs the back of your throat, and menthol is a form of mint. Both of them numb the back of your throat so that you tolerate the vape or the smoking. I don't know, the old days it was the smooth flavor of menthol. It was back in the days of Lucky Strikes and all those other ones. And so what they have found, the data that they found is if people use menthol, they have a 20% longer period of time before they decide to try to quit. And it is harder to quit when you're on a mint or menthol. And while cigarettes have gone down significantly, the group of cigarettes that's gone down the most slowly are those where people use mint and menthol as well. So, and then nearly 95% of tobacco users began before, and that's, when I say tobacco, I say vape. By definition, correct me if I'm wrong, from Rhode Island or something, tobacco, vape is tobacco because it's extracted from the tobacco plant. You can get it from tomatoes, you can get it from potatoes, but you can't get enough like you can out of a leaf of tobacco. So the level of nicotine in flavored jewel products. So the standard level of nicotine in a pod is 3.5 times greater in the United States than in Europe, and in the UK it is banned. Okay? So any study that you hear and see out of, like one most recently this year, that says that e-cigarettes are 2.5 times better, that was the New England Journal, that's let's say this, okay, 2.5 times better getting off cigarettes, all right? Let's take it as compared to NRTs, which are the nicotine replacement therapy. Let's change the goal, because I fiddled with the numbers in their tables. And it's interesting to find that if you make the goal nicotine, cigarettes and nicotine, nicotine replacement therapy is 2.5 times better than e-cigarettes. Because at the end of the first year, okay, 80% of people who had started e-cigarettes stayed on it, whereas NRTs, only 10% stayed on it after the first year. So what you're seeing is the attitude is, we don't want to get, we'll get you off cigarettes, but we want to hook you to nicotine, all right? And what does nicotine do at that level? We don't know. There was a paper in India I read about this as a carcinogen potential. There's articles about secondhand smoke causing bladder cancer. My wife, 2 years ago, she was going to Haiti. I may have told you this before, but had kidney stone that she had to get removed so she could go, and they happened to find bladder cancer. She's not a nitrosamine eater. She wasn't a big cold cut eater or anything like that. Her father was a 4-pack-a-day smoker, and we think that may have caused her problem. Thank goodness it's cured, but every year now, for the rest of her life, she's going to have to be scoped. But this is the point I'm making, so that nicotine may have more carcinogenic potential than we know yet. And as you said, the FDA has not approved it for e-cigarette as a smoking cessation device. And the cost of vaping is very interesting because, you know, not only is the lung, there's neurologic issues as well. Executive functioning kids is seriously affected. ADHD can be brought on by nicotine as well. So mood disorders and issues around fertility have been shown associated with nicotine, not smoke, nicotine. And kids are spending about $1,400 per year on their addiction now. So keep this in mind, how harmful. I hope you consider how much harm is going on right now. Yes, some of these pods were marijuana. Yes, some of these pods were off the street, okay, that they talked about right now. There's no question. But the indisputable thing is 150 cases of seizures as well. And those seizures are with Juul, okay? So we are dealing with a very serious situation where somebody says this is harm reduction in adults. No, it's harm enhancement in children as well. So the letter here, if you go to the letter if you don't mind, this was, we are pushing along, and that's why we need your help to vote this in. Bill 1902, House Bill and Senate Bill 1279 that would ban the flavors. If you try to wait until the state does it, it ain't gonna happen. Tobacco 21, this is what's interesting. It didn't go until you had a majority of the towns. And if you look at what the population that meant was, 75% of the population had to be on board for this, and when it hit 50% of the towns. So that's the thing, big, small, we go for everybody right now. You are in a wonderful situation. Now, you probably heard there's been lawsuits that they're trying to stop people. Cumberland Farms has been doing that. The advantage to you is you have no Cumberland Farms, okay? And what Needham has done, what Ashland has done, correct me if I'm wrong, they restricted all flavors to smoke shops. And then they licensed, and I'm going to defer this to Sarah because she knows better than me. They're going to cap and winnow all their tobacco permits to not allow a vape shop to come into their town. Because if you don't do that, there's a greater risk that somebody in a vape shop may come in here since they can't get into another town. You know, Walpole did this. Norwood banned flavors, totally banned flavors. And only allowed the vape shops, I think has it been initiated yet? I don't, yeah, only allowing them to sell the equipment, but not the flavors, okay, as well. That's kind of their strategy, but I think that's a mistake. But they have 2 vape shops, you know, you don't. And that's the thing that gives you a lot big heel up, because legally, who's gonna do anything, because you don't have a Cumberland Farms, you know, maybe one small convenience store person will, but they're trying to stop our momentum right now. We again are at 12 towns. When this happened, I just looked up, there are 60 towns in the Commonwealth that have no Cumberland Farms in them. And these are the towns I'm going to try to maintain the momentum with what we need to do, because the House and Senate are not going to vote this in until they see that the momentum is still going with this. And this would also close a ton of loopholes. And remember this, that if you vape, you have a 3 times greater chance of smoking than somebody who's never done either. So, and that's just a summary of the letter that I gave you. I don't know if I showed you this last time. 2015, they had the Juul launch party. And if you see the ads nowadays, the people there are in their 60s to 80s. Now, a lot of them, some are in their 50s, older adults. But these were the parties all around the country, okay? And they say one thing, they target the LGBTQ community, they got the hormones in girls revved up here with this. This couple here, well, I'm sure they're 18 or 21, and they sure as heck don't look like it, okay? So that's the intent of them. And if you really want to hear this, there's a group in New York called PAVE, Parents Against Vaping, because Juul went into their kids' school and said that Juul is safe, but you can't use it until you're 21. Paid the school $10,000. And the son was there at the hearing. And if you go into the subcommittee, well, just put in Jewel hearing, House of Representatives. It says it's 2.5 hours, but if you just wing out a lot of the stuff, it's about an hour and a half. But it's a fantastic, and my partner in this, John Winnicott, testified. Now, this is also, I showed you the Coalition for Responsible Retailing. I call it irresponsible retailing, sorry. But this is the group that is a shell advocate group, funded mostly by Big Tobacco and assume Big Vape now. Now, as you know, Altria, formerly known as Philip Morris, now bought 35% of Juul, and they're marketing with the Marlboro Man. They're starting to combine that trademark to get this out to entice kids more and more. They say one thing and they do another. This, again, is on the molecular, if you want to learn a little bit more about addiction, the molecular part of this. And finally, these are only a few of the victims. I think, did I show you this last time? This, if you look at the victims here, Matt Murphy, he's well known, he's testified at the Mass House and Senate on this. Luca Kennard was admitted to rehab. He had seizures as well, using Juul. The two other gentlemen there were killed by their tank devices that blew up. The guy, William Eric Brown, it blew up and ripped his jugular vein, and he died. So this is not a safe product, and as you know, you've already seen the map I gave you. And again, if you look on the back, I wanted to get a dartboard for myself with this guy on it. And the other thing, if you want to see a really good special about this, really well done, CNBC, Vaporizing America, okay? They talked to the professor at the University of West Virginia who did all the studies. They talked to Ken Burns, and he has the audacity to say, we don't know what this is going to do to people years from now. That's what he said. He said, we don't know what it's going to do. And they slipped under the FDA failed to not have them submit safety information before putting this stuff on the market. The FDA failed. And the FDA is going to continue to fail. And we have to do it state by state until something is done eventually at the federal level. And that means Maura Healey's working with the internet issues, and towns individually need to self-regulate themselves for the public health of their children. So I think that was
All right.
long-winded.
Thanks,
Any
Sasha.
questions for me? Sarah?
Sarah, do you want to add?
Would you like an update on the lawsuits,
Sure.
where that's at? Yesterday, there was a motion for preliminary injunction in a number of different communities, basically any community that has unexempted menthol wintergreen that has a Cumberland Farms in it. So I believe it's about 6 or 8, maybe 8 different communities. So we don't know what the outcome of that was. What I was hearing from attorneys that were sitting in the room, and of course they might be biased, but that Cumberland Farms was basically getting killed. Prior to that yesterday, there have been motions for preliminary injunction brought by Fletcher Tilton in municipalities both that have Cumberland Farms and that don't have Cumberland Farms. And at this point, there have been, I believe, 5 motions heard to stop any enforcement, stop the regulations from taking effect. And the municipalities have won all 5 of those motions, and Fletcher Tilton has won none. So that's where the lawsuit is, or the lawsuits are at this point. Last night I was in Hudson. I was telling Dr. Hartman I was in Hudson and talking with their board, and there was a representative there from Fletcher Tilton who basically guaranteed the Hudson Board of Health that if they pursue a regulation that would restrict flavored products to adult only and not exempt menthol and wintergreen, So move them over to adult only also, that they will be sued. So I'm sure if you ask the gentleman on the end tonight, he will tell you the same thing. If you pursue this as a board, you will be sued by Fletcher Tilton, assuming that they can find retailers within the town of Norfolk to be the poster boy for the lawsuit. There haven't been lawsuits in every community. We think it's because some of the retailers have not been interested in suing the town. So hopefully these regulations will be taking effect without any lawsuit in some of the communities. But most of the communities are getting sued not only by Fletcher Tilton on behalf of retailers supposedly in the community, but also by Cumberland Farms. What else I can tell you? You know, you have options, and you've always had options. One option is to do absolutely nothing. One option is to restrict flavored products to adult only, and with the exemption of mint, menthol, and wintergreen.
And remember, the number one flavor now is mint when they took mango away.
That's right.
We just should probably let you know that we did that.
Okay, and
So as of August 1st,
is it-
our
okay.
regulation was amended.
I've been here so many times.
I
I'm
know,
trying-
I
I'm
know.
having
So
a
I
hard
just
time
wanted to make sure you
remembering
knew
what you've
what-
done and what you haven't. So you exempted, and you were thinking, or you exempted mint, menthol, wintergreen, and you were thinking about looking further.
Tonight, that's right.
So, if you decided to remove the exemption for mint, menthol, wintergreen, you can have it take effect at any point that you want to have it take effect. Ashland passed their regulation, I want to say in December or January last year, you know, early 2019, late 2018. It doesn't take effect until January of 2020. They did that to see what was going to happen with the lawsuits. Ashland, coincidentally, is not being sued by either Fletcher Tilton or Cumberland Farms. Not sure if there's any Cumberland Farms in Ashland, actually. There isn't, okay. But they're not being sued at this point. So you can have the effective date out a year, whatever you want to do to see what's going to happen with the lawsuits. But it sends a clear message from your board that this is you know, as Dr. Hartman always says, this is a dangerous product and should not be in the hands of young people, yet it is all the time. You know, it's hard to tell how long these lawsuits are going to take. There is legal assistance available, and we can put you in touch with those folks that can work with your town council.
Can I ask one question? You know, menthol cigarettes have been around for, what, 50 years?
At least.
In that range. I think I remember when I was a kid, the first coming up with Salem and a few other ones. And I have a suspicion that that's where an awful lot of this attack mode is coming from. It's because of the menthol cigarettes, not so much necessarily the menthol vaping that's really taking a hit financially.
That is a lot of it. Remove the Salems and Newports from the average convenience store.
Yeah, that's a lot of cigarettes coming off the counters.
But there's still more people don't use menthol than use menthol, okay,
Right.
as well.
Well,
So keep that in
Sure.
mind.
No, but I'm just talking about the cigarette market as opposed to the vaping
Yeah,
market.
and this is menthol. I got this in Norwood. And it's not unpopular, okay? If you'd like to smell it, you know, I'm sure it's like Vicks Vapor Rub, so why not inhale it, okay? And this is another liquid, and these things aren't well regulated, so they have lead in it, you know, as well. And Juul has chromium and nickel in it, but it claims that the stainless steel cover in it makes it okay. Well, nickel and chromium are known carcinogens to the lungs.
You know, let's focus for a second, though. I'm trying to make a distinction here
You understand?
between the menthol products that are, you know, that have been around for 50 years and the ones that are, you know, coming along with this new phenomenon that we're going through. Have there been any towns that have basically yanked all any kind of flavored, including menthol and mint, of vaping materials off the shelves in regular stores and only limiting them other places, but left the menthol and mint cigarettes where they are today.
Sherburne.
Sherburne's the only one who did that
Mhm.
I know of. Do you know of any others? Out of the 12, Sherburne was the only one that did that. And they said they're ready to reconsider later. I was there 3 times on this issue as well. So you also have to remember there's a recent study in Ontario, which was very impressive. When they banned menthol, banned it, cigarettes, e-juice, everything, there was a doubling of quitting within the first month of doing that. And why not have that incentive, maybe that people might save their lives rather than choosing to continue to be addicted and die sooner?
Mhm.
You know, it's very interesting. The admiral in the Navy along the Pacific area, I don't know what specific area there, when Hawaii made 21, the flavors, their base went to 21. And he said, all our young soldiers have a right not to get addicted. That's the right he looks at. Not the right to be able to use, but the right not to get addicted. And it is not the adult that's the concern. It's the kids. The uptake of this material is going to be shown to be far, far higher in kids than it is in adults. So, you know, I have to say, I'm less worried about those who want to continue. Because remember, even these cessation devices, if you use e-cigarettes, it's a 1 in 5 chance you're going to quit with an e-cigarette. It's a 1 in 10 chance, they say, if you just use NRTs. But remember, that's quitting cigarettes. That's not quitting nicotine. You continue with it. In addition to propylene glycol, diacetyl, and those things within the
Understood. Are there any other folks in the room who would like to say anything about this? And please identify yourself and grab a microphone.
Before you do that, can I just address your combustible menthol issue?
Okay, quickly. Go ahead.
If you don't have any adult-only stores in town, I'm not sure if you do have a vape shop or anything like that. That's not to say that one of your convenience stores, if you pass the regulation, wouldn't change their business model and become an adult-only retail tobacco store, so that the adult menthol smokers in Norfolk could still go to that store. So you're not banning it, you're just restricting where it can be sold. Thank you.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Mark Foss for the Coalition for Responsible Retailers, a member of the evil Fletcher Tilton. Clarified that you don't have any adult-only stores as of now?
No,
Are there any applications pending, do you know?
no.
Okay. And the current status of the regulations is flavors except mint, menthol, and wintergreen are adult-only stores, are
Correct.
limited to adult-only stores. They're not banned in their entirety, but
Correct.
they're limited, okay.
And
there are no
tobacco.
adult-only stores.
And tobacco,
With-
flavored tobacco.
Right, with the exception of mint, menthol, and wintergreen, okay. Because there's various permutations in all over the towns. From what I understand, there's a 100% compliance rate in the town by the FDA with keeping, am I getting wrong information? I hear
Well,
7
we
to
don't
7
know
over the
that.
last 3 years for FDA compliance checks on,
If we had any
Well, we have
FDA
no data on that.
compliance? Yeah, we don't have,
Where are you getting that data from?
it's provided to me by the client. It's been accurate in the past. What I've experienced is that the boards will, a lot of the local municipalities or with consortiums of other municipalities will do their own testing, and sometimes the results will vary. But I've never had a suggestion that the information I've been provided through my client about FDA compliance checks was inaccurate.
I mean, the only ones we know about, frankly, are the ones that we've conducted ourselves when we first did the 21-year-old. And that was years ago, frankly. There's been nothing done recently
have
Why?
we,
Not that we're aware of.
that we're aware of.
Okay, I got
So-
to
I can
correspond.
explain that.
Well,
The
maybe
FDA
somebody can explain it.
Does compliance checks in all communities in Massachusetts.
And
he probably
where's
is.
the data?
Well,
have it?
you can go on the FDA website
All right.
and get it there, but he probably is correct. If you haven't gotten a letter from my office saying, you know, such and such variety store with the address has sold to a minor, then there have in fact probably been no sales. I'm gonna try and pull it up in a second, so he's probably correct. The issue is not sales, the issue is exposure of all of these products to young people of various ages, all the way down to little toddlers going in with mom to get a gallon of milk, and they're being exposed to all of this nonsense. And what does it do when they're at the point where they can buy tobacco products?
I'm just
Whoa,
curious.
whoa, whoa, let's, you started talking about something, and what was the end of this conversation you're starting here?
Well, all your retailers are in compliance according to the FDA.
How often
With
do
the
they-
limited checks they've done.
Yeah, how often do they do these checks?
I believe that's over a 3-year span, and it's 7 compliance checks. Is that a huge sample? No, but there were no violations found in that time frame, and the FDA that's one of the things they do in this.
Sarah just told me it's once a year, the FDA does it. And can I?
All right, well,
But
let's
they're in
continue.
compliance.
We'll have
Yeah, I mean, there's no suggestion that the convenience stores that are selling flavored products in your town are selling to minors. Now, minors may get their hands on these things, and that's not a good thing. Our group does not suggest that this is a healthy product that should be in the hands of minors. That is not what we do. Other people's views of our position notwithstanding, it's not what we say. Adults only. Enforce the regulation that it only goes in the hands of the adults. There's possession laws, use, purchase laws, things like that that can make sure that the convenience stores and the minors in the town are in compliance, penalize people that provide them to minors through other sources by buying them in the convenience stores themselves. But the net result of the proposal that you're considering is to punish a group of merchants that there's no evidence to suggest that they've done anything wrong. They're in compliance, there is an acute awareness growing to the extent it isn't already there by virtue of the action, the efforts of my colleagues at the other end to make this a big issue. So the convenience store owners have become even more sensitive to the requirements of carding people that are buying these products. So the net result of what they're looking for is to punish local retailers that have done nothing wrong in an effort to achieve a goal that we all think is a good goal of keeping these products out of the hands of minors, but it's punishing people that haven't done anything wrong, for starters. And if there is no current adult-only store, saying you can buy these products in an adult-only store is kind of an illusory option, at least for the time being. And there is cited, I believe Dr. Siegel's testimony, written testimony was provided to you that suggests that the e-cigs are preferable to other alternatives as far as smoking cessation. You read through his testimony and the affidavit he's provided in the litigation, and other things he's done. It's clear his preference would be to ban all these things, soup to nuts, no question. He's not in big tobacco's pocket. What he says is that this isn't the way to do some of the process of keeping it out of the hands of minors. Increases recidivism in adults.
Could I ask you a question about that study? Who was the study funded by?
I don't know the answer to that.
The e-cigarette industry, because I looked at it. That's who the study was funded by. It was also, I don't think it was a U.S. study, it was a European study. No, it was a U.S. study. But it was funded by, at least that's what it said in who funded it.
You may be
And
right.
several different companies.
But-
So, when we talk about studies, we have to pay attention to our sources.
clearly in both sides, and that comes in from both
Exactly.
directions.
Exactly.
You know, that's a legitimate thing, and I have to repeat that we are not here claiming this is a healthy product. That is
That's what
not
our goal
we're
is,
saying.
health.
What's that?
Our goal
Your goal
is
is health, but approaching it in the appropriate manner, I'd suggest. One thing I've, from going to a lot of these hearings, sometimes I'll have to sit through restaurant compliance issues first. And there's an analogy here that I think is useful to consider, is that people sit down in a restaurant, they can't go in the kitchen and say, I want to see how you store your food, I want to see how you prepare your food, are you keeping it right? Boards of health have that right, so they can make sure that customers that go into that restaurant are getting food that's been prepared correctly and it isn't dangerous for them. Because you don't label the food and you can't see it. The kind of products we're talking about tonight, the menthol cigarettes as the prime example, you get a look at a carton of that, and the Surgeon General's warning essentially says this is going to kill you. You know, so the warning, the information has been provided, and if you're talking about adults buying product, they've got the information in front of them, and I think that's the primary goal of agencies such as the FDA and boards of health. The primary legitimate goal is educating adults about the consequences of these products. And sure, keeping them out of the hands of minors. That's a goal we can all agree to. But once you've done the education part, you know, allowing adults to make adult decisions is kind of the concept of liberty. And I didn't come up with that. I was watching another board meeting, I believe in Acton, and one of the members said if we enforce the age restrictions and make it so that adults are buying legal products on their own volition, this is a paraphrase, isn't that freedom? Isn't that what it's about? And I think that's a legitimate issue to consider, is that if you ban these flavors and say you can buy them on only adult stores, which you don't have any of, you're infringing on the liberty of these adults that haven't done anything wrong and punishing retailers who are in compliance with the age restriction enforcement. And so I think you really got to think long and hard about it. And the litigation, sure, I don't make those decisions. My name isn't on any of the pleadings. My firm's name is. Not sure I'll ever get involved in any of those. But I don't think that shouldn't be the only question you consider. It's like, will we get away with this? Can we win in litigation? The bigger question is, should we do this in the first place? You know, and I keep coming back to the liberty issue and the compliance, that you're impacting adults and compliant business people, and which isn't the same question as will we win in litigation if we do something that we probably shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Can I say something?
One sec. Have you said what you want to say?
Primarily,
Okay.
I'm happy
Well,
to have
this can be back and forth. I'd like to have you have the opportunity to say what you wanted to say, and then we'll go back to others.
Well, it's a little dramatic, but there's a case after watching a lot of these things, it reminded me of a case I read in law school that I loved, and it's about Fourth and Fifth Amendment stuff, wiretapping from the 1920s. So the underlying merits of the particular case aren't particularly relevant, but on the liberty concept, Justice Brandeis, Olmstead versus United States, talking about the way the framers set up the Constitution. I'm going to pick a couple sentences because the rest of it isn't particularly relevant. I'm happy to give the cite if people want it. Talking about the way the framers set up the Constitution. They conferred, as against the government, the right to be let alone, the most comprehensive of rights and the right most valued by civilized men. So that has kind of universal application in our form of government, in my opinion. And limiting the liberty of adults who want to buy products that they've been made painfully aware of the possible health consequences of is kind of needlessly stepping on their liberty, especially when you're telling them, you can buy this stuff at a over 21 store, which, by the way, we don't have. Now, does that mean they have to go 10 miles to buy it? Okay. Is it make it complete so they can't? No, but it's an inconvenience, and it's an incremental attack on their liberty. And further on in the same decision, Justice Brandeis says, Experience should teach us to be most on our guard to protect liberty when the government's purposes are beneficent. The greatest dangers to liberty lurk in insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning but without understanding. So, yeah, is this gulags and dark pajamas kind of totalitarianism? No, but it's nicking away at liberty in a way that doesn't sit well with me. You know, if I wasn't being paid to come here and talk about it, this would bother me.
How much you get paid an hour?
Well, hang on.
I'm not
That's
sure
different
that's
answer to that
particularly
question.
relevant.
No, you don't have to at all. The one issue I guess I would raise with this whole business of liberty, and others on the board can certainly chime in, is that there are many things that we do regulate that can be thought of as infringing upon people's liberty, like the liberty to go 80 miles an hour down the highway when you really want to, and no, somebody says you got to do 55. I mean, there are many, many things that we regulate, and the reason we regulate them is because of safety or public health. And it is a public health issue that we're talking about. And there are many, many rules on the books, as we passed them here, that deal with you got to do it this way, not that way, and there's a good public health reason why. So what we're really talking about here is public health. Now, it's not just the health of the imbiber. There is secondhand smoke. Certainly, we all know about that. And on top of all of that, you've got this enormous health bill that somebody has to pick up. It's an enormous amount of money that this country spends every year treating people who, for whatever reason, didn't make the smart decision, made the other decision, started smoking, got sick, ended up in the hospital, ended up, at major surgery, thousands upon thousands of dollars of bills, had to get paid, and who paid them? We all did. So there is a public health issue here. It goes way beyond, I don't know what Justice Brandeis was talking about in that context, but it goes way beyond something like, I don't know what it was. It is about something that we are collectively here charged with overseeing, and that is public health. So that's the reason why we're having this conversation.
Understood, but I mean, I think you should think long and hard before you needlessly step on liberty and aim for education and prevention as opposed to regulating consenting acts by adults. And, coming back to the restaurant analogy, which I really like, is you're well within your rights in doing the right thing by making sure that the food's maintained properly, but you shouldn't tell people that that menu can only have organic salad and can't have the some heaping plate of fried seafood because the salad's better for you. You know what I mean? At some point, you got to let the adults make the decision. I'm sorry.
You can put calorie information on the menu so people are able to make the right choices, right? And so providing that information. But so I'd like to make an analogy, and I know this is probably not a great one, but let's look at gun control, for example. So I have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I think that my right to that trumps perhaps the Second Amendment, where people can go buy guns, but I'm going to be out in a theater or in a mall and get shot at. So I think that analogy is terrific, that right to liberty, but it doesn't always apply in every situation.
Fran, do you want to have a
Oh,
response?
I was just going to say, when we see a 78% rise of adolescent use of e-cigarettes and the effects of nicotine on them, we're concerned about their public health and their health and how it's going to affect them years to come. And so, trust me, we are really weighing the rights and liberties of individuals with the public health of our youngsters, the people in this town. So don't ever think that we're not listening to both sides.
Oh, understood. And I haven't run into boards yet that completely disregard it. I mean, there's usually contemplative boards. It's I'm sure you're uncompensated, and I don't, and I.
You're making a lot more
honor.
of this than we are.
Is that? And I honor the enthusiasm. I honor the enthusiasm of everybody involved in the process. It's wonderful to live in a country where you can speak your mind. But I think it comes back to a large degree, the liberty issue, the education. We're back to if the calories on the menu requirement is the same concept as this stuff's going to kill you, Surgeon General warning. You know what I mean? And then you let the adults make the decision whether they want the plate of fried food or they want the organic salad.
So,
You know?
so we
And you
have,
keep it out of the hands of the minors. No problems with that whatsoever, but limit the impact. Use a sniper rifle, not a hand grenade, to achieve that goal so that you don't needlessly have a lot of collateral damage.
All right, Fran, one more point? Or-
so the last point is that we did have, you talk about education, we've had lots of folks from the school system, and as well as our public safety officers in here telling us that they would like to see these laws in effect, and that, however, they're also working to educate these kids. So we're coming at this from many directions. From our board's perspective, we're looking at the public health issue, but education is being taken care of by our outreach workers and by our high schools. So it's not like we're just operating in a vacuum here. We've talked to lots of people about this.
I throw out one other thought about the concept of what it does to retailers and to adults. Your agendas and minutes are publicly available information, but there's a distinction from publicly available to common knowledge. And so there may be a significant group of people out there that have been smoking menthol cigarettes for the last 30 years, wish they could quit, but have kind of recognized that that's where they're at. They're probably going to be smoking. And they walk down, maybe they're within a quarter mile of the convenience store that sells them, and they have no idea you're talking about banning them. Just because of this isn't public information, it's publicly available but not common knowledge, and they're going to wake up one day, if you enact the ban, walk down to the convenience store and be told, oh no, you can't buy those here anymore, you got to go to the adult-only store. Where is there one? We don't have one in this town. And, you know, if those people are going to be impacted, you may be thinking that you're doing them a favor long-term health-wise, and you probably are. But these are adults that get to make decisions like that on their own and should be made aware of that. And I'd suggest that perhaps something of this significance might be better done in a larger forum, such as town meeting, town warrant issues, by the selectmen, because the impact on commerce, which leads to another comment. Another board, you know, I brought up the, you know, enforcement mechanisms that they should have, you know, focus on enforcement to let the under 21, but leave the adult sales alone. And they said, we don't have the resources to ticket people under 21. Well, that kind of begs the question of, if you don't have the resources to police your own regulations, maybe it's not appropriate to enact them. Let the organization that has the wherewithal to enforce these rules. Maybe this is a board of selectmen, so the police could be involved in ticketing people that are violating the use and possession laws. And the analogy we always use is that the convenience store owner can get in trouble for selling to a minor. Minor goes outside and lights up, and he's not in trouble. You know what I mean? And you know, that should be somewhat problematic.
35 minutes right now.
Well, not exactly.
I'm close to done, and happy to.
Yeah, I do want to ask for other people in the room here, does anybody else wish to add anything at this point to this conversation? No? All right, so Dr. Hartman, back to you.
Yeah, let's begin first of all. Your superintendent at KP now has said this is a horrible problem, and I don't care about compliance rates. I don't care if kids get 10% from the town or 90%. It's still a problem, okay? Compliance rates mean nothing to me. Because yes, that one day they happen to be fine. But when I talk to kids, that's not the case. The other thing is, a study done by the Truth Initiative, known formerly as Legacy. Legacy was the one who subpoenaed Big Tobacco for their internal memos that said if we catch kids under 18, if we get them smoking under 18, this was in their memos, that we have a 20-time greater chance of having a lifetime customer than if we had them at 21, okay? All right. Now, let's talk about a few things about, so I don't care what the compliance rates are. The data is clearly here in the study by Tobacco Free Kids that 75% of what kids get is from retailers, okay? They're not there all the time looking at every one of their personnel. And I don't want to punish them. He makes that word punish, he uses the word bans. He's not being very realistic, and talk about not knowing data. And the sad part is, this is how much I get for doing this. This is what I'm getting. You won't say your hourly rate?
I'd take the same position whether I was getting paid or not.
All right.
And B,
Gentlemen,
and B,
gentlemen,
I
all
infinitely
addressing
respect you
goes
for
back
doing
and
this
forth
for
to the
nothing.
chair, so let's get away from
You're
this,
right,
all
I
right?
apologize. But then, the other issue is when I spoke at King Philip's 2 years ago, Jewel was there. The principal came to me panicking and said, they were not invited, but they showed up. And she said, they gave me this flash drive on how to educate my kid. The kid's here. So, you know who has the flash drive now? Maura Healey. She's the first state to sue the vape industry in Juul for its marketing practices, okay? I don't care if this is Juul, Fix, Soren, Mybo. There are so many new, I can show you my new collection now, and ones now that have double the amount of nicotine in them. Flavored stuff, Novo. The gentleman here, I don't know if he has any kids, but it certainly concerns me when somebody talks like this. I'd rather them represent Whitey Bulger than take on an industry that is known to kill 450,000 people a year just because they said they had the right. They did not have a right when they chose to do it at 12 years of age. When 90% of people become lifetime addicted between 12 and 18, 95 between 12 and 21. And who do they market to? Kids. I had a kid in my practice who told me his homework app had Juul on it. Homework app. And it was Maura Healey who went to the cease and desist act to them. She also has the two big vaping firms that send the vape into the state that she nailed and said cease and desist. Amazon Prime, Whole Foods. So what do kids, we caught, one of the agents told me about this and I sent it to Maura Healey. They ordered it online through Amazon, their pods. They sent it to Whole Foods to avoid their parents seeing they're getting the packaging, okay? And they just went in there, gave their slip, and they gave them the key to the locker, and they got their stuff. This is evil. This is purely evil. And in my opinion, I think it's a tragedy that Fletcher Tilton is going to get a reputation. Probably won't care, but and you know, I didn't deal with Fletcher Tilton when we went to 21. There was never a lawyer in the room, so you know from that situation, there's a lot of money here that they're afraid to lose. But that's the health of the kids, and I really don't give a damn about the tobacco companies or the retailers. They just have to start to look at more healthier foods and figure out how they're going to work. My business has had to work. I own my business, okay, with 5 other partners. I was one of 2 partners in 1986. We had 1,000 patients, 1 site. We have 14,000 patients now, 3 sites, and 70 employees. And I've had to morph, I've had to adjust with healthcare, just like businesses in America do in a free market system. You're not going to survive if you stay still. And the problem is, people are staying still because they become so dependent on big tobacco to make the revenue. So they've got to change their attitude and ideas, okay? I don't think teenagers did not make the proper choice, but it wasn't an adult that made it, it was them as a teenager. And there's evidence in functional MRIs that in the right anterior insula, I can show you where that is anatomically, it is rewired with nicotine. 16 to 21-year-olds who don't smoke versus 60 to 21-year-olds who do smoke. There's an area, the area of addiction, where if you know it strokes, you don't want to smoke anymore. That there's a structural difference that nicotine is probably doing to the brain. Do you have kids?
I think your testimony's.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you,
I apologize.
let's say we've all had an opportunity here to express
Yep.
ourselves. And if there's no other interest in the part of the audience here, we do have a proposal before us to
So, to remove,
Yeah, do we have it
well,
quoted in here?
Betsy, did you put it in? Is
Yeah.
it in the new one?
Appropriately in green ink, it looks like.
Yeah.
You can have mine,
It's under characterizing flavors, definitions,
So it starts first on page what? Page-
4, sorry.
Oh, yes, right here. So the changes that have been proposed, oh, I have to ask you, Betsy, when was this distributed? How long has this been?
It hasn't,
Okay, so this is the first that's being discussed
correct.
in a public forum. All right, so, under our regulations, under definitions, and under definitions, the word is characterizing flavor. Some new words here say a distinguishable taste aroma other than the taste or aroma of tobacco. And now the words menthol, mint, or wintergreen are taken out. And after that, it continues through a whole bunch of other different flavors. Shall be determined to have a characterizing flavor solely because of the provision of ingredient information or the use of additives or flavorings that do not contribute to the distinguishable taste or aroma of the product. What we're really doing in that particular characterizing flavor is removing the restriction on the use of the terms menthol, mint, and wintergreen in characterizing flavors. The next change appears,
The one thing you didn't mention is that you're adding it back in later, in the definition, as Betsy has it up on the screen. You're gonna
the
re-
definitions where?
Like, on the right-hand page there, you're gonna remove it after, taste or aroma of tobacco, and you're gonna add it back in after,
Yeah,
The-
he
the
did-
list
he
of
did
all of
say-
the-
Yeah, he didn't read them all.
Yeah,
yeah.
the list of all of the aromas and flavors now include these ingredients.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's all.
That's the only place it
That's-
appears?
I think that's it.
All right, everything else, basically, so we're talking about, 6 words being removed from one location where they basically were an exemption, and those same 3, as it were, flavors or aromas appearing with a list of many, many others where they are restricted. So that is essentially what we're talking about adopting. Now, the intent here was to, first of all, now that we have agreed upon this, well, now that we have proposed this, to make it possible for people to make comments on this.
Do we need to make a motion to propose it? Because I thought we did it at the last meeting, but it wasn't clear that anybody seconded the motion.
Well, I tell you what, just to make sure we've got our i's dotted and t's crossed, why don't we do that now?
Okay, so I would make a motion to remove from characterizing flavor the words other than the taste or aroma of menthol, mint, or wintergreen, imparted or detectable either prior to or during consumption of a tobacco product or component part thereof, including but not limited to tastes or aromas relating to any fruit, chocolate, vanilla, honey, candy, cocoa, dessert, alcohol, beverage, mint, menthol, wintergreen, and et cetera, as the definition is stated.
Okay. So those terms are now considered characterizing flavors. Is there a second to this motion?
I second the motion.
All right.
You're not, I just wanna make sure you're doing this right. You're not making the motion that you're doing it, you're making the motion that you're changing the definition.
And then we're
in a
going to,
draft regulation that will then go to a public hearing.
exactly,
Right, we have not circulated this new
Right.
document.
right.
yet,
So
we
this
need to
will
do
be
that.
what will go for a
In
public
reference to
hearing.
the point made before, we need to have people know this is happening. So there is a motion and a second to make this change in the wording of this draft regulation. Is there any further discussion on this draft regulation? Hearing, seeing no indication. With all those in favor on the board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we are unanimous in proposing this as part of our draft regulation. Now, we need to get the word out. Actually, something else that came up, you mentioned this earlier. Do we have an effective date yet in this document? Actually, we have one that's an older one. It's not going to be August 1st, I'll tell you that.
No, that's our existing regulation.
Yeah. So we also need at some point to
Well,
adopt,
you would probably do that at the public hearing.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right, that's what we did the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for right now, it's regulation is more on content, not on when it's going to go into effect.
Right, right. Get the word out.
Current form is except with the change.
Correct.
The only changes to the current form would be in the green, and the rest of it
Is
is the
this-
current
is
form
this-
as it's
is-
currently in effect.
That's right.
Thank you.
The current regulation is on our website.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get around to pulling it
Yeah.
today. Thank you.
So, we do need to let, first of all, other members of the town governing boards know about this. And we need to have this notice go off to all of the retailers who are impacted by it.
Do you want to schedule a public hearing?
And we need to schedule a public hearing.
Our next regularly scheduled meeting is September 17th, but I'm on vacation that week.
And I'm also not available.
Okay. September
vacation.
24th, the following week work?
That's a Tuesday? Well, since I'm teaching on Monday and Wednesday, I'll be here,
Okay.
so.
I can do the 24th.
We do have an MRC meeting, so that's a
Oh, that's
I
Tuesday?
can't do the 24th.
Yeah.
You cannot?
No, we have an MRC, I didn't know.
Did we
that
say
yet.
we could do it on, I thought we said the 26th, Beth. Or did we say the 24th?
I forgot about the MRC meeting.
But
We
what,
didn't put that in
I mean, I can reschedule that, I guess.
Well, can we do another night that week if the
Is
Tuesday doesn't work?
Thursday, are they board, do you have planning boards meetings on the 26th?
No.
Well,
Does that
I
work?
don't want to check I can check with Gary. He might know.
Well,
We don't meet on Thursday.
Okay.
so it means coming from work.
That's okay. I can do it the 26th. That's fine.
The 26th? Okay.
25 or 26?
Six.
26.
It's a Thursday?
Right now, it was scheduled for September 17th, so we're rescheduling that.
I don't know if it matters to you folks, but I don't think there are 3 technical assistance providers. I don't think any of us can be here that night. But that doesn't mean that you can't still
Mhm.
go ahead with your own so I just wanted to let you know.
I think more important is, can we get this in the paper like we did the last time today? We want to make sure that we can get it in
Yeah,
a
we have-
month, it has to be a month ahead of time?
Right, I'll do that on Monday.
Okay, so we'll have enough
it'll be in
time.
the paper. Let me just check the dates. So it actually, I don't know if it matters, but so Monday, so it'll be in Wednesday, the 28th. So it's a little shy of a month.
Is there some hard and fast rule that says notification has to be a month ahead of time? Or have we just done that as?
Sarah?
I mean, it's whatever the town policy is. We can
Yeah.
check with the town clerk, but I'm thinking it's gotta be posted twice in 2 consecutive papers.
I believe Board of Health Regulations is just once.
Yeah, that could be the case. But, I mean, you can't post it like the week of the hearing, so.
Right, that's just for the the
Yeah,
legal.
so if it gets posted now and the hearing is like almost a month later, that's more than enough time, especially because you're gonna be sending notice out to all the retailers.
Yes,
also.
yes, everything will go out by mail as
Yeah.
well and posted on the town
Oh, okay.
website and,
Right.
so I think that should work.
Would it be a good idea to have your people here in the public
It'd be a
hearings?
good idea for one of us to be here, and I already know that I'm somewhere else because nobody else could
Happy
be there
birthday.
that night. So I'm up in North Andover because nobody else could be there that night. So I know that my two coworkers are busy somewhere else or on vacation or, I don't know.
Well,
How about
October 1st,
first,
that's a,
third?
Back to a Tuesday?
back to a Tuesday?
Are we rescheduling?
Well,
Well,
we're,
we would like to accommodate Sarah and her colleagues.
so October 1st? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And that way, we'll be sure that we've covered the 30 days, and we
Yeah.
haven't, it's not
Okay,
short,
so
okay?
Tuesday,
Okay, good,
October 1st.
right,
Okay.
okay. October 1st, done.
Okay. Will that be our next monthly meeting? Not exactly a month?
The meeting is actually the 15th of October.
Our monthly meeting was supposed to be, what?
Was it the 15th?
Oh, the 15th. That'd be our
So,
October meeting?
I may have a couple of septic variance hearings that we need, if they haven't come in yet, so we'll have, play it by ear if we need to. We can schedule a quick meeting sooner.
Mhm.
Oh, sooner. You mean in
Maybe.
September?
Yeah,
And then what?
if needed.
Well, this one may replace the 15th
It
unless
may,
there's something
it
else
may
that has to happen.
replace both the September and October meetings.
Okay, all right, so
But we'll
to
see.
be
I'll-
continued, but we have
Right.
a
All right.
meeting
Stay
on
tuned.
October 1st. Okay, good.
Okay,
All right, very good.
Really appreciate it.
thank you all for your comments. Appreciate it.
That's the end of it, the HECO discussion.
Yeah, it is.
It is for now. To be continued,
Till
as they
October
say.
1st,
yeah.
anyway.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You're certainly welcome, Dr. Harbin.
And just one thing to tell you, Professor Siegel, while we find him an honorable person, we feel the way he's going about it is absolutely wrong. Dr. Winnicott, the Harvard professor, is working on that with, and if you read Dr. Siegel's notes, he makes no discussion about the vulnerability of an adolescent brain to addiction. It's an FYI, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
As
Thank
always,
you.
thank you for yours.
Thank you. Okay.
Interesting, I didn't know who those two other people were.
I'm still not sure I do. My goodness, there's nobody from Lawrence Street here?
No.
This feels unusual. I'm going through withdrawals right now.
Sandy Maya did email me, said she couldn't make it. She was wondering if we had any update on the, Buckley Man, what was that called?
What was-
Financial inability?
Inability. Oh, you're so good. How do you remember all this? Yeah, financial inability. They sent a
I was-
letter to DEP.
Okay, as far as I know, we haven't heard back from DEP that
Right.
I'm aware of, but Rich McCarthy's been out all week, so.
But we haven't heard in the past.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
The one thing that Rich sent that I thought was interesting, and that the Lawrence Street folks had asked for, was water testing from Franklin, because they said, has anybody contacted Franklin? Because the Mill River is in, is it a Zone 1 or a Zone 2 aquifer? Their Zone 1. It might be their Zone 1 aquifer. the
It's
Mill
either
River.
zone 1 or zone 2.
Yeah, well, one or the other.
Right.
And anyway, Rich contacted their DPW individual, and that individual said, no, we have been testing our waters, and there have been no PCBs found in our waters.
But they have been tested.
They're well water. They're well, yes, Franklin has been testing. He
Okay.
sent that to us. I don't know, that was a couple of weeks ago, so maybe you don't remember
No.
that. But anyway, so that was good news, as far as PCBs go.
Mhm,
But they
yeah.
have been testing their water for other things as well. Okay.
Let's see. So Betsy, Do you have anything to add on the topic of, Tom DePlacido's engagement with this project?
I don't, I haven't heard a word.
All right. The last I heard, he was considering pulling out of the deal.
Yeah, I don't think that that's happened yet, so as far as I know, he's still going through the comprehensive permit process with the zoning board of appeals.
For the entire site? Okay. Okay.
Or
Well,
at least for the LaRusso property. There was something that came from Rich
Well, I
that
thought there was
said
a
they were gonna
separate
separate,
them.
yeah, and maybe he was gonna go ahead with the LaRusso. But there's a zoning board meeting on September 4th that they're going to have an update of the Buckley Man property, so maybe that would be a good time to hear what's going on there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have one other thing about them, because we received a letter, an email from a woman, Dorothea Collins, asking us to, if the project goes forward, to consider monitoring for sound. Does anybody remember that email? Betsy forwarded it to us.
Yes, I think I did.
And so I mentioned to Betsy, in response, could we ask our LSP for their take on this, and if this is something that we should consider, because we considered dust monitoring
Mhm.
when those folks came in, but I don't think there was
Noise?
noise.
Thought there was.
But maybe we did, actually. I can't remember back. It was over a year ago now. So,
Didn't we talk about dust and noise in our discussions of the, sort of the perimeter of the property and what we're gonna monitor?
Do you want to see the letter that we sent?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that would answer that
That would do it.
question. Sent to our
The
LSP, or
ZBA.
the zoning board, right, based on our LSP's recommendations, what we could do.
Well, as you're digging that up, I see we're, again, discussing posting signs.
Right, because we didn't do that.
Yeah, we didn't say yes to it or no.
Right, we
just discussed it.
So I can't remember where we left off, but our LSP presented to us on October 30th, 2018, information surface water sampling at Busch Pond that was done October 2014, okay? And this was surface water samples were sampled from Busch Pond and City Mills Pond to evaluate potential effects to stormwater runoff from the site to these areas. One sample was collected from each water body and analyzed for RCRA8 metals. Okay. A second set of samples was collected from upstream and downstream locations of the site in November 2014 to further assess the extent to which surface water impacts could be attributed to the site. 2 samples were collected from Eagle Brook upstream of the site, and 1 sample was collected from the Mill River downstream of the site. The results of these analysis reportedly indicate that arsenic exceeded ambient water quality criteria, as well as 1 exceeded ambient water quality criteria for lead in Busch Pond. So, according to these results, Busch Pond has lead in it and arsenic. And so, and that was in 2014. Did it go away? I don't think so. I mean, this is 2019. Do we need to resample, or should we just post mass.gov, give some guidelines to pregnant women and women who become pregnant, and nursing mothers and children under 12 years old, that they do not eat freshwater fish in streams, rivers, lakes, and ponds in Massachusetts at all, if you're under 12 years old. So, I mean, that's a little bit, I'm thinking we should post something that says that we shouldn't be, it should be a catch and release because we found arsenic and lead in the pond in 2014. But is that too long ago? You tell me. I don't know. You're the chemist. What do you?
Well, I guarantee it's not the same water, but with the same materials be showing up in the new water that flowed in, down, coming down from Eagle Brook over the years. I mean, there's nothing to say that the sample taken then was unusual in any way. We have no data to suggest that. So all we have is that data. As far as I know, I don't think any other sampling has been done out there.
So this was from 2018. I mean, we could ask our LSP this question about what's in the water now, the most up-to-date, or else we can just.
Well, the
post.
most recent stuff that they did in the last year, did that include any water samples from surface water samples?
I don't know. There are so many tables. It's hundreds of pages long, and
I guess my question would be, how many people do we think are actually eating the fish that they're catching out of Busch Pond?
if one person is eating it, it's more than enough. More.
I mean, but that's kind of my point. I mean, is it, do we, I don't think it's a big deal to post that, and if they.
Post, I don't want to get everybody in
Tizzy.
a tiz.
Okay.
So that's, but at a minimum, we can at least post the mass.gov
Right.
guidelines that say children under 12.
Exactly, and if they choose to ignore that
And-
and eat it, that's on them.
So
Rather than
this
to
is-
say, the Norfolk Board of Health has information that there's lead and arsenic in the water, do not, it should be catch and release, something.
Okay, so there's a choice between posting that and posting something
this-
more.
I'm just thinking, those are our choices,
Okay.
but
I didn't know that there was a choice. I thought that was what we were planning on posting, that was the choice.
No,
Okay,
no, I'm saying we
Alright.
could be more
aggressive
about it,
Okay.
right?
Well, or we could simply remind them that what we know to have been true out here at some point in the past probably makes the stream a lot like a whole bunch of other ones in Massachusetts. You know, there are issues with the water quality that could have an impact on the health of eating fish that are caught there. So.
Love that dirty water, right?
Well,
Well, that's an old enough song that it's actually gotten better.
Rich McCarthy, what town does he live in?
North Attleboro.
So, he
Yeah.
sent us a
have it.
sign
Yeah, I have
from
it.
North Attleboro. No, I have to look. Because they have mercury, and so it states specifically, catch and release due to mercury content, because the freshwater fish consumption advisory list that's put out by Mass Department of Public Health, Bureau of Environmental Health, states in it where areas that they have tested. And, for example, here in Norfolk, maybe we
Populonic
should be talking about Populonic Pond, because that has mercury, chloridane, and DTT in it, levels. But they don't say anything about Busch Pond. They do talk about the Childs River, between Medway Dam and Franklin, and Medway and the South Natick Dam, and it includes Norfolk, and that also has mercury, chloridane, and DDT in it. So, I'm
So
not
I
sure
would
what
think
we
a-
should do with
But I
this.
think a general sign that might say, catch and release because this water has been found to have heavy metals and toxic substances, and I think we can be vague.
Heavy metals,
Well,
arsenic and lead?
We could even just pinpoint the fact that we know in this area there has been arsenic detected, and that's not just those samples we're talking about now. I've known for quite some time, and just looking at data from other locations up there, that for some reason, there are levels of arsenic there that are persistent.
And that's-
So if we simply say, previous testing has disclosed the presence of arsenic in the water here, please be either
Mindful.
careful
Or
about
we say
consumption
catch and
or.
relief.
Maybe make catch and release the sort
The
of
title,
headline.
Right.
Um,
Well, we have to come up with our own verbiage.
I'd be happy to actually invoke this as a part of it. I mean, simply say the
Great.
previous testing has disclosed the presence of arsenic, that one sample for lead. That was one sample out of several, I assume.
Yeah.
How'd they actually say it?
They said, as well as one exceedance of ambient water quality criteria for lead in Busch Pond.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many samples they took. I mean, I have
Yeah.
to go back to the original table. But the arsenic is a, what do we call that when it's always present in this area? High levels, right? That's why it's coming down from,
Well, we suspect it's coming out of some kind of just geological formation.
right, that's what I'm saying.
That is just feeding into the water. So,
Does anybody know Populanic?
yeah.
Bladdock Pond, do people fish there too? Where is that?
Oh, it's over
It's on the Franklin
Midway,
line.
Franklin line.
Is that, what's the name of that park? Is that park on Pleasant Street? No. Pleasant Street.
No, no.
Begins with a D.
To get there,
Delicate, that's not the pond, that's the, okay, because that would be only Franklin.
I can't remember, to get to Popularity, you go down Miller, or do you go down?
You gotta go into Franklin and I think in around, but
Around.
yeah.
So I don't know if that's something posted at that pond. I mean, the folks at Lawrence Street brought this to our attention because they see people fishing off of that bridge all the time. Now, is it just catch and release or not? So can we only address the things that we know about, or do we have to address Populatic Pond as well, Populatic Pond as well?
I mean, I don't think it'd be inappropriate to put a sign on any pond in the community that we think people are fishing at, knowing that the likelihood that there's some level of something in there is high.
Well, I guess my question is, I don't know how big Populatic Pond is. Can you fish from an area, so one sign might not,
Right.
someone might
No, I
know.
understand what you're saying. What's the
However-
pond, there's another pond in town, like, right where, like, the Rentham Developmental School, isn't there a pond in that area?
Mirror Lake?
Yeah, Mirror Lake, I'm sorry. Yeah, is that,
Isn't that all private? Can you get, I don't know.
At the dam, there is a small spot there, I
A
think you
little-
can walk
Little
in.
beachy area.
Okay.
It's very small. Well, yeah, most of this area doesn't have a lot of beach area, although I think there is a little beach even in Populatic, isn't there?
I don't know. They're both-
Anyway,
and what's the pond by the old town hall? Isn't there a pond back there too where people are swimming and
Town
stuff?
pond?
Town
that's an official swimming hole from,
Is it safe?
not anymore. Yeah, it hasn't been used as official anyways.
Right, but do
Swimming
people,
hole.
Swimming
do
lessons
people
there.
fish there?
Yeah, I taught my son how to swim there. Well, actually, I did.
Really?
Do people fish there? So I'm just trying to think of all the,
No, I
all the
think it's
water that I
think
can
it's
come up
just a
with.
swamp now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's sad.
There wasn't much of a fishing place. Actually, there was in the deep end. Yeah, nothing very delicious looking.
Okay. Just thought if we were putting signs on ponds, I would hit all the ones I could think of in my head.
Well, I mean, Highland Lake is much, much, much bigger than what we're talking about.
Maybe we can get DPW to post signs everywhere. But this,
They're gonna
one
ask how-
area.
They're gonna ask how we're gonna pay for them.
Well, that's what I don't know. I'm thinking that too.
Do we
Well-
post
But
things
at
on
any-
on the town website?
We did already post.
Yeah, I did
We
post on-
posted this on the
yeah.
town website, yeah.
All right.
But do we want to post a sign, because we know that this is an area that people are fishing?
Well, this one, we have some data to remind us that there has been a persistent, background concentration of arsenic. How that translates into something in the fish is a little tricky even then, because arsenic doesn't behave the same way some things like mercury and lead do.
Maybe that's why they don't have mercury and lead on here. The only thing they have PCBs, DDT. What's DDT made of? I don't know what it's made of.
DDT is,
Yeah.
that's the compound name, that's the acronym.
So it has no
Pesticide.
arsenic in it? No, I know, but
Okay.
what is it, what the actual ingredients
Oh, no, that is
of
the
it?
ingredient.
I don't know. How is?
It is a
what's-
single compound. It is used as a pesticide.
Right.
It's used to control mosquitoes for
We
years
don't-
and years.
Not
Yes, except
anymore.
it
Not
accumulates
anymore, no,
in-
no, no,
it
no.
accumulates in bird
But
eggs.
apparently,
and
I don't
it's
think it's
Didn't
been
you
used. When
read
was the-
Silent Spring
Yes,
when you were
when
in
was the
college?
last time? Yeah, but when was,
great
what
book.
I'm saying to you, what is the actual chemical formula? But you're saying it has no, I don't know what it has. Well, anyway, it's not
Okay,
relevant,
Google
but-
it.
Yeah.
It's gotta be diethyl, something,
Okay.
no, dichloro, whatever.
And it hasn't been on the market for years.
Years.
No.
And yet it's still
Since
in
the
all of it.
1950s.
Yes.
But it persists, that is the issue. Because
Yeah.
this stuff does not break down.
And a dioxane is another one?
Chemical
Dioxin,
formula.
not dioxin.
Dichloro, diphenyl, trichloroethane. There you go.
Okay.
Now you know what it is.
Okay, and I'll forget
Can you
it as soon
visualize
as
that
we walk
molecule in your
out,
head?
other than the
It's a
DDT.
chlorinated aromatic hydrocarbon.
But
Yeah,
mercury.
and there's the
appar-
problem, this aromatic hydrocarbon which does not break down.
But mercury apparently is also in fatty fish only, they take it in? I
Yeah,
mean,
they take it in.
Mercury's
They
another
take
big
it.
thing.
Yeah, mercury does accumulate in fish.
Yeah, so I don't know, does arsenic? I don't know. Anyway, so and lead,
Mhm.
Well, and lead
Lead
can be
is here
from
too.
people fishing, because that can actually be from lead sinkers that people leave behind, and things like that, as well as
That's interesting.
And
automotive.
hunters, the pellets that hunters use,
Yeah,
duck hunting.
and leaded gas.
Yep.
All right, so we're talking about our posting fish consumption advisory signs. Yes,
I like that.
Only
Fish
at
consumption.
Busch
Bush
Pond.
Pond for now.
For now, and we can continue to discuss this. Maybe I'll try and find out if, maybe, no, they wouldn't provide signs. They just provide that. You make your own sign. But we could put it Populatic Pond. Okay.
All right, so is there a motion to craft and post a fish consumption advisory sign for Bush Pond?
I motion that we craft and post a fish advisory sign for Bush Pond.
I second that motion.
Without further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right.
Okay, so you're gonna craft it.
I thought you were gonna craft.
You told me you were gonna craft it.
Wait a minute, did I say we, aye?
Okay.
All
Oh,
right,
dear.
all right, before October 1st,
Okay.
we'll make a sign. What else?
Oh, we have to go back to what noise monitoring.
Oh, yeah, did you find it?
So, the letter that Sandy Maya sent, that we referenced in that letter that we sent to the ZBA in December, I think it was? Seems did reference dust and noise monitors.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought we did.
Her letter, but did we send that, and we sent it to ZBA?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So we're good on that. Thank you.
A contract for Mark Oram. Do you have that, Betsy? Is it in our packet?
I do, it's a new packet, it is.
Is Mr. Oram the current?
Yes.
Okay.
Is he what, the what?
Is
Current
he the current?
sanitarian.
Yes.
Does he work with the building inspector at all in terms of inspecting food establishments and things like that, or he's just the sanitation?
Yes, just the
person?
He just walks
sanitation.
and does the kitchen and the
Okay,
usual stuff.
all right.
So, without going through the whole thing, is it going to, do we have to put down that we would like him at least to ensure that our tobacco regulations, current ones, are, what's the right word?
That's right. He
They're in
assists in the
compliance with, do they say it somewhere?
Yep, on the last page, number 9, it says assist in enforcement of state laws related to environmental tobacco, smoke, and sale of tobacco.
Okay. Assistant enforcement. Okay, awesome. And how, do we have a price for this? Does it say somewhere?
We do. It is. Is it on the first page? Let me take a look.
Maybe it's here, I'm just,
Usually an hour.
compensated, $75 per hour.
Right.
Is that, is what it's always been, or is that with a cost of living increase or something? I don't know.
I'm not sure it's gone up, but
How does that work? Like, if the town gives a cost of living raise to the employees?
No,
we
no.
we budget a certain amount,
Contractors don't get
right?
Okay.
quotas.
Right.
Okay.
They're not town employees.
So that was probably $75 per hour last year?
Yeah, I don't think his rate has changed.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
and how many food establishments do we have? I don't know, how much do we pay?
So restaurants, we have.
But-
um,
I guess that's not really that important. I was actually trying to get to a total cost for the salary, but,
So our budget is $3,300 for the year.
okay.
And he falls within that budget.
He does.
Thank you. Okay.
So are we okay with signing this document? I think all of our sanitarian needs are spelled out here. Okay. Should we, each of us just sign one of these, or how's it gonna work?
I've got the original,
Oh, so
so,
we just sign the one then.
Okay. well,
right, if you wanna vote on it, and then you can sign it.
Is there a motion to approve the sanitarian's contract?
I make a motion to approve the sanitarian's contract.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we sign.
Awesome.
So while that's coming around, MRC updates? What's new?
So, what's new? So I attended a public health emergency preparedness meeting. I sent you folks some data on that meeting, and to let you know that the room was full of people, and most of the people that were there were, I'm pretty sure, employees of boards of health. But most boards of health have more than an administrator. They also have a director. That's not true. Most boards of health, like 50% in the state, have that. But what I was alluding to is a study that was recently, a report that was recently done, that was started in 2016 by a commission that was established by Governor Baker and the legislature to look at boards of health, public health agencies in towns across the state. And I forwarded that to you folks. That was in our correspondence, to bring to the point that there's a lot of work that a Board of Health can do. And the commission said that, just to summarize, that lots of boards of health are lacking in mainly resources, so that they can't do things that need to be done at this day and age, that they're just, when they were formed, it was all about septic systems, but now we've got so many other issues to deal with, public health, preparedness, and what are some of the other things that water safety, and, clean water and clean air, and all the things that we've tried to deal with over the years, and found that there are a lot of questions. But if we had a part-time director, or if we could collaborate with another town and have a director that could, we would vote on, like we do with Wade, with the septic system, they present the town, their expert opinion when we're dealing with other people. And so, that's one of the things that, I think we're lacking in when it comes to other issues besides the septic systems. So I don't know if you realize the distribution list for that report went to you guys and Betsy, and also to Blight and Robinson, our town administrator. And so I'm thinking that we should sit down with her, not at a meeting like this, a meeting that we're only talking about boards of health and what we do and what we can do better.
The state has some awesome resources. If you look up mass.gov under Board of Health, there's a lot of information there about just a lot of information about what boards of health should be doing.
So that's my point.
Yes.
So we're all volunteers, and I think we could be servicing the town better if we had someone that could put some time, more hours into it. Certainly for emergency preparedness, because we still don't have an EDS plan, and we still haven't met with, and we don't have a local emergency management plan yet, and we haven't met with all the players. There's a lot of work to be done. So, I'm suggesting that we come together and just talk about that with Blight. Open meeting, but at least that's the subject, and I don't know how we do that without having another meeting, which I'm thinking we need to have a separate meeting for that one topic.
I agree. I'm trying to figure out where in this town we could most effectively get talent of the right sort to help us in some of these things that you're talking about, whether it's emergency preparedness or whether it's, I know some things of sort of environmental chemistry, but there are many other things that I don't know. We have a medical person on the board now, so we can call upon you from time to time. But it would be useful. We live in a town where there are a lot of professional people that might have a skill or two that we could tap into from time to time without necessarily running up a contractor bill. I wonder if there might be some kind of, almost using the MRC as a model, is there something that we could use to get
Somebody
people?
with a degree in public health, right?
Yes, but this is my point, we have a 3-year term. This board is gonna change, and it's constantly changing, and we need consistency. So that's how the towns that do have a director, actually Millis, which is as big as we are, if not even smaller, has a director. So,
And what is the director's, so that directs the Board of Health?
right, and then they still have a board of health.
Right, but so
So,
what is the director? Who are they
I don't-
often?
who are they?
Are they?
They're people with degrees in public health, At least that's my experience. I'm thinking that's what it is. Maybe it's not 100% true, but that's logically what it would be. Paid positions. But it doesn't have to be a 40-hour-a-week position,
Right.
and it could be collaboration with another town.
Right.
I met with Blight, and I actually, this was months ago when she first started, and I mentioned these things, and she, at the time, told me she was, she's just getting her feet wet, and she was actually gonna meet with Millis, the town administrator in Millis. She was planning to go to all the towns, I guess. And, but I didn't hear back from her afterwards, and then I just sent her the commissioner's report. So, I agree that there may be people to tap into, but we really have to have consistency. And that's why I think we need to either have some kind of an agreement with another town, or else we need to hire our own part-time person.
Well, we have somebody like Wade only because we don't have the need for a full-time person doing the inspections and the site plan reviews that he does. And for other particular specialties items, it may be something that very infrequently we need to have expert opinions on things.
Well, I can tell you, I spend a lot of time doing Board of Health work every month, which included, all of us, the vaping, trying to get the tobacco 21 done.
Mhm.
I mean, there's always something new these days. The EDS, site, the EDS plan, and now, the dioxin in the water.
All right.
That was another thing, dioxane, now I'm getting the
Yeah.
ins and the ains. I just felt myself, as a Board of Health member, when I came across an issue that, we needed to address it, so I went and I addressed it, but I don't think there's gonna be, how is that consistency gonna continue?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, because as I used to be on the Massachusetts Veterinary Medical Association board, so I was a committee chair for a while, then I became president-elect, and then president, and then past president. And so we have a small organization in the state, but we have somebody from outside who's the executive director of the MVMA, and then all of it, she gets paid, through the dues through the MVMA, and then the rest of us are all volunteers, and so we all, chime in and vote on things and stuff, but she directs the organization. She takes care of continuing education and things like that. So I can see where that's very valuable, because as volunteers change, she's there kind of overseeing everything.
And I need to give credit to Betsy. She's
Yes.
amazing. She's got a million hats on.
That's right. We need to
and
clone you,
And
apparently.
I'm always calling her and asking her questions and expecting that she's gonna remember something that happened 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Most of the time she does, but I feel like she's being, pulled in a lot of different ways. We talked about the signage and, that was
Or even
another
things
thing.
like the email that we got from the woman who had some concerns about, burning leaves and things like that. I mean, how do you, so I ended up looking up something on mass.gov about what the legalities were about burning leaves in towns. But yeah, something like that to take care of those questions. And how do we ever get back to her? So stuff like that, I think, is really important, is following up on our community's concerns.
I had someone that asked me, and I haven't, I followed up on a few things, which were private with Betsy, but this woman called up and mentioned something about the fire department right now, which was the police and fire, that had mold in one area, and they blocked it off, and I'm thinking, well, they're gonna close that building down soon, but that just came to my mind as we're talking about the leaves, and that, I said send a letter to Betsy, and I don't know if she did, but the point is, one of the comments in this article was that you really need someone that is connected to public health and has been educated in it, to help you. So, anyway, those are my thoughts.
I think it's interesting that some of the people in the Medical Reserve Corps, like the people who are overseeing our area, often are public health nurses.
Yeah, they're all, yeah.
And so they do get paid by the Department of Homeland Security, whoever pays the MRC people. But that might be somebody to tap into in terms of, a part-time position, because many of them leave because it's not a very well-paid position through the Medical Reserve Corps.
We also have the BU School of Public Health here, and I don't even know if does Northeastern have a School of Public Health? BU has a master's program in public health,
Yeah,
but
we
I don't
do.
know if Northeastern does, but, so, my.
The veterinary school, I think, has a public health program.
Tufts?
Mhm.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So, I'm just saying, I think there's an opportunity to sit down and talk, and maybe I'm totally off base, but if we don't talk about
That's
it.
right. I think it's a conversation to have.
It's 50-page report, by the way.
Well, I was gonna say, don't just give it to Blythe and have her, read it for us, or read it.
No, we would read
And
it,
then when he's to extract it.
and that would be what our meeting is about,
Yeah.
is talking about where do we go with this.
When did you send that email?
It's one of these pieces of
Okay.
paper.
Week of the week
All right.
before?
Yeah, it might have been the week before,
All right, I'll take
whenever
a
the
look.
meeting was, it was the week before, I think.
That was
Yeah.
August 8th, August
Yeah.
8th?
And I honestly felt totally out of my element at this public health emergency preparedness meeting. I'm trying to get up to speed, but, they're talking about the drills that they do and funding. So I should say that Betsy got us 2 Microsoft Surface
Pros.
Pro laptops
Computers.
that we're going to use, that we're going to eventually have our EDS plan on, and we can use it when we do have a clinic to communicate with each other, one of the ways, and look up forms and print and whatever. I mean, we'll have a lot of things that we can do. So we got that, and I think Betsy's going to also apply, correct me?
Yep, so I actually did get reimbursement for our Blackboard Connect system, so, or partial, half of it
Did they,
through the grant money. That was for last year, well, last fiscal year,
yeah,
so.
So now you have to
I'm gonna
apply.
apply for this fiscal year.
in October, and we got Stop the Bleed.
Kits, yep.
But none of this stuff, well, Betsy's kind of tuned into it, at least for the 911. But the
Yeah.
Stop the Bleed stuff, I think I had to raise my hand and say, oh, we'll take some of it or something, or maybe you got an email, I don't know.
I did,
You
yeah.
got an email. So, anyway,
Well, all right, so a meeting with Blythe, or a follow-up meeting would be a useful thing, I believe. Did you just send that to our Norfolk email addresses? Because I'm not
Yes.
remembering it.
Yeah,
Okay.
your
no.
Norfolk
Either.
email
Okay,
address.
just have to check.
Do you
I have to
remember
give
what
you
day
a,
it came?
I have to give you my new email address too. I'm getting rid of my AOL account
Oh,
because
okay.
it's making me feel elderly that I was probably the only person left with an AOL besides my husband. I know.
When did I send
Betsy, if you have what Fran sent around, could you send it to me? My Northeastern account.
Yep.
I look at the other infrequently.
So.
Consolidate.
Yeah, I might have to wait until I can do it
Are
from
you
here.
in agreement? Oh, thank you, Eileen, for all the information on the vaping, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah, yes,
really-
that was really a quick,
Yeah.
just perusal of,
Yeah,
Was it Ontario? Was an
Yes.
interesting one.
yeah.
that was great.
What percentage just quit? It was a pretty significant
Yeah.
number.
Okay, so we finished this, I'm sorry, you gotta rein me in, because we're not finishing
We're
this
still in MRC.
conversation.
Is there other?
So, are we going to, do we agree that we'll meet with Blythe?
Sure.
And do you have is daytime, anytime good? Or
I-
do we need to do nighttime?
Selectively.
Okay,
Do you have a schedule, like if some days you're impossible to
So,
schedule and other days are not?
no, so I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I work some Mondays. I have Fridays off.
Well done. Oh, but Friday's the day when this place is closed. Okay.
Of course it is.
Tuesdays?
Tuesdays I work.
You
So
work.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are
I
your
work.
busy days.
Yes.
Monday, less so.
Yes, depends on the Monday.
Okay. No, I teach them Monday in the mornings, but I'm done by noon.
Okay, so, and if I do work on Mondays, I'm usually finished by noon.
And
Okay,
I
so
do
Monday-
something in the morning
Monday, like,
on
really
Mondays,
late.
but
All
I'm
right, all right.
finished.
Yeah.
So maybe Monday afternoon.
Monday
Late afternoon.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Not
but-
right away.
No, so
About
what do you,
dawn.
when do you want to, when are you thinking? September what? Because I'm going to be away after September 8th for a couple of weeks.
So,
But we can do this after, what are you thinking?
well, I'm thinking late September, because I'm going to be busy. for a
Okay, so
couple of weeks
late
before then.
September would be, Monday, September 30th. It's Rosh Hashanah.
I'm not that observant. I'm not gonna worry about that.
And I haven't observed anything. So, it's just fine with me.
So possibly, question mark?
Yes.
Will you set it up with Blythe
Yeah.
then?
October
Okay.
1st.
Yeah, Mondays-
Let's see if
What
Blythe
time is good?
available.
Monday, September 30th?
30th?
Let's
potentially?
see, I need to be able to get out of town, so,
We're here till 6, so
yeah, could we do something like around 2 or 2:30?
Sounds good.
Let's say
How about
3.
3?
3 o'clock?
Great.
3 for sure, 3
Okay.
works.
Okay.
So how about 3 o'clock on September
Mm-hmm.
30th?
I'll reach out to Blythe.
And, yeah.
By the by, there's something which links to this, and that is, a few weeks ago, Ed Nolan had this gathering in this room of folks talking about emergency preparedness.
Well, that's
We
nice.
never got
I never
invited.
got invited.
Well, it's because you weren't invited.
Oh, were you
So-
invited?
The head of the department was invited. That's the only people who were invited were
okay,
like.
because if
Char-
there were two
Chuck
people-
Stone was here.
Okay, if there were two of us here, then it would be an open meeting, so we can't be invited.
Well,
Is
so no,
that
it was just, that's the departments.
right? Okay, gotcha.
But anyway, there were a whole bunch
Too
of
bad I
items on
didn't let-
this list.
It's too bad you didn't let the admin staff know, though.
Is that right? And there was a number of items on this 20 or 30-page document that had to do with emergency preparedness with health representatives. And as I went down this list of,
It must be the emergency preparedness plan he's working on, Fran.
Yeah,
yeah, there's a framework that he has from the state that you
Yeah,
sort of fill in
yeah.
your
Yes,
details
yes,
for each
yes.
town. Anyways.
So what was the,
The thing is,
Health
I was just
Department.
struck by the fact that so very much of what was on there was the sort of things the MRC folks are already worried about, thinking about during
Yeah.
the time of a
Yes.
crisis. So what we need to do is take a look at, and I brought just a copy on my laptop, and I'm not gonna do it now. I'll circulate it around to just show you what this master plan has in mind for a Board of Health representative or a Board of Health presence on this whole process, and see how it overlaps with what you guys are doing or planning to be doing.
So what we've been asking for, which I think is actually legally mandated by the state, and if not the federal government, is a local emergency planning committee, which would be those people at that meeting.
Yes,
However, including, so the chief of police, the chief of the fire department, the emergency manager, the board of health, you know, a selectman, the school board, the council on aging.
Correct.
Those are all, animal control officer. There are all those people that should be on that committee at that meeting, looking at that plan.
but the emergency dispensing site plan is another piece
Right.
to go into
Right.
that plan.
That's it,
Right.
that's it. The thing is, it needs to be fleshed out as to what exactly are the services that we provide,
Right.
and
So-
responsibility levels and things like that. So this is just a heads up, because this is the first I heard about it like a couple of weeks ago with this meeting. But what we need to do is sort of all sit down and take a look at the list of items, and see, you know, what are the sort of things we gotta check off as being, yeah, we're responsible for that and that and that, if something bad ever happens.
Well, getting back to just ours, what the Board of Health is responsible for, the emergency dispensing site plan. Maybe what we should do is pull all those players together in a room, because we need police support, we need DPW support, we need, the site is the senior center, so we need that individual here, we need schools, so we can notify them. So, but we need to pull them all in, and then did he actually go over the plan step by step? Did he do that?
Not in detail, no. No, we talked in more general terms. People had read the document like I had,
Okay.
and then came with their own particular questions, but it was not a point by point, let's go
Yeah,
through the whole list.
Because ours isn't completed yet, is the problem. We haven't even assigned names to all the players.
Mhm.
Well, we kind of have at this point. They don't know who they are yet.
That's right.
but-
That's
We'll
right. They
tell
don't
them
know.
sometime
Yeah,
soon, right?
yeah, we will. Okay, so,
So this has been something that we've been working on with the Medical Reserve Corps for probably a decade. And I've come in front of the Board of Health as a community member probably 3 times to try to get this rolling.
okay.
Fran reinvigorated the MRC, so we're kind of at that cusp
I'm
of
stuck
everything.
again.
Right. So I agree, there needs to be some kind of meeting with all those players, and that would be our local emergency planning committee meeting, right there.
Well, I want to
Sounds
just
like
stick
that's
with
what
our
happened.
responsibility
Right.
right now.
Except
which
nobody
is
got
the-
told
Well, yeah,
about
we need
it.
to take a look at what people are looking to us to do, as well as what we've already got in the mill that we're doing.
So I
So-
don't- yeah, I don't know if you've seen the plan. Maybe we should forward the plan to these guys. Yes.
Yeah, if you
The
got a
most,
plan.
the updated plan,
It's pretty lengthy.
yeah. Okay, he's had nothing else to do but read, and neither does Eileen. She has nothing else to do than read this stuff, but this is, yeah, okay. All right.
All right, so,
Okay.
on our list of things to do, we
Okay.
do need to share what has been happening recently and what you guys have been up to already.
Okay, so, so that's the MRC. I will, and thank you again, because I think this will be helpful if we all sit down and talk about our issues as a board, and what we can do.
Okay. We're back to dioxane again.
Quickly, I'm going to tell you. So they did, they tested,
Yep.
whoever is the group, the environmental group that tests the water for Gold Street wells and for the new well that's going in on Holbrook Street to see if there was any dioxane in the well water, drinking water for our town, and there is no dioxane there. Some of the, if you remember, the concern was that the landfill keeps showing dioxane levels when they do testing. But apparently, it's not traveling in that direction towards our wells.
Gold Street.
Yeah. So hopefully, it's not traveling to other people's wells in town either, but I don't,
So- so-
we can only test for so much.
So my husband texted me while we were having this meeting and asked something about, does the contamination go downstream into other townships, and if so, is Norfolk liable? I think he was referring to maybe the
Buckley Manor.
arsenic and, yeah, or the arsenic in the water and things like that. So is that a concern, that, do we have some legal liability for having a landfill with dioxane in it?
Oh, no, no,
contaminating
I
other
think
people's
you're
wells?
talking about, are we talking about Busch Pond?
Well, I
'Cause-
think it kind of segues
in-
into both things,
both
actually,
things?
personally. I know.
Well, we can't,
I mean, because once you've tested and found the presence of something, does that make you responsible
No.
for that?
Well, it's coming out of our dump, it's a sanitary landfill.
I don't,
So just throwing that out there. I don't have the answers to that.
Talking about the dioxane. If we're talking about the arsenic, I mean, that's kind of Mother Nature work. I'm not sure if we have
Yeah.
any real control over that.
well, what about the mercury and the lead and
Well,
the
that's a good
PCBs and the
question. I don't-
chloridane and the DDT and all of these other bodies of water across the state? I mean, I'm sure each town is not.
Oh, this is across the state.
That is across the
Oh, oh,
state,
oh.
yeah.
Well, yeah, so some of these probably are, once upon a time, human intervention. Yeah. A lot of mercury.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot
Wow.
of lead, oh, no, mercury, no. Mercury, where did all that mercury come
PCBs
from?
in Silver Lake.
Oh,
A lot of-
paint,
There are a lot of Silver Lakes here too, for that matter. Paint?
paint, from years and years ago.
Old thermometers.
Oh, thermometers, that's right.
Mercury, yeah, for sure.
Thermometers, Mercury,
Thermostats.
that's right,
Batteries, maybe?
yeah,
yeah,
well, I don't know.
it was widely used
I don't know
industrial
these
material.
questions. But if we had.
And the fact that DDT is still out there,
I know,
that's
it's
really
pretty
interesting.
amazing.
Because they stopped using that in this country, I think, in the
60s or
1950s or
s-
60s.
Yeah.
And
So this report was 2000, that's the
18.
most recent report that they
yeah,
published.
that's less
so-
than a year old.
Yeah.
Chloridane, ugh.
Good stuff.
You could still buy that when I first bought my first house in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And then we
Remember
use that
used-
for ants,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
You know, it really works.
It does really work.
Yes.
Yeah. Bad, evil, so
So
that you
it's the
sprinkle it around the
question, we
house.
don't have an answer to the question, but.
No, all right.
Is
Well, we
the
won't,
town liable? I
we
don't-
won't talk to him anymore. Okay.
Okay.
Did we, and I apologize, did we go over the minutes?
We have not yet.
Okay.
I skipped over those. We can go
All right,
back to
sorry.
them now if you like.
Only because my name is missing from the Board of Health members attending on June 18th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, wait a minute, and Jeff Kane's still there? That's
Yeah.
wrong. Sorry, I was just using.
Oh, I
the wrong-
didn't notice that.
Jeff was there in absentia.
Okay,
Okay.
Or masquerading.
I did
I'll
not
make that
know.
change.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
So, shall we discuss the minutes of the meeting of June 18th?
I think there was another one before that.
Was it before that?
Another one? There are two, right?
Well, actually, there's one in May I didn't go to because I was out there
You weren't there.
Right, right.
trying to keep my head above water.
So you can,
Literally.
Where is that one?
So do you guys want to make a motion on approving the minutes for that public hearing and then
So I make a motion that we approve the,
that was executive session?
right, the meeting minutes for the executive session held on Tuesday, May 30th, 2019.
I second the motion to accept them.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. Okay, now we're back to June 18th. This was a lengthy one.
So this one, we
Oh.
need to change and put Eileen's name as a
Taking Jeff
member.
out, sorry, Jeff.
On the very last page,
Jeff is
would
gone.
you change August 20 to 22?
Yes.
Because, yeah, it was the 20 for a
It
while.
was the 20th, then it was the
And I said, I'm going.
22.
Yeah.
I thought it was very well done, actually. There's a lot of stuff in
A
here.
lot of stuff.
And you composed it well.
It was a long meeting.
What is that man's name? Mark what? I couldn't understand what he
The
said.
guy from CRR,
Yeah, Mark
I
something.
didn't get I didn't understand his last name. I'm gonna have to go
Okay.
back and,
Hopefully it,
Read the tape and listen to
Yeah.
the tape.
anyway.
Dr. Hartman may know,
Yeah, I think they're old pals.
I betcha. Not pals, but
Colleague, no.
Yeah,
My
they use the word
colleague on the
colleague liberally, I would
opposite
say.
side of the table.
Well,
Did you find something?
well, no, I was just gonna comment on the fact that I did attend the B1 zoning working committee. It was pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
All about the town, the planning board and the zoning board requiring certain builders to make sure that they're building properties that look a certain way and are acceptable to the community. And a lot of it was talking about how putting retail space in front of it and putting kind of the residences behind it, and the fact that the retail space is essentially a lost leader. So the concern is that, are they gonna be able to find people who wanna move into those retail spaces and who they are? Do they pay enough rent to support that? But the feeling is that the builders understand that most of the time, they rent them for $1 to their brother-in-law or something like that. And again, most of the money they make is on the residences behind that. And then there was some suggestion that, looking into some of the, either, town sewers versus the septic planning, that was actually a big concern for a lot of people in terms of, you can't build if you need to put in a septic system versus being hooked up to the town sewer. So there was a lot of that. I didn't get any kind of, was there any, do you know if there was any kind of report that Rich put together? Because I didn't get anything that I'm aware of, although it might have been sent to the town email address and I just didn't see it.
I'm not sure.
I don't think I got minutes when I went to that meeting. But they were gonna do a survey. Did they do the survey? They were gonna do a survey of the town?
Well, they did a survey,
survey,
yeah, about what
yes.
people are interested in. They got like
Yeah.
200 responses out of, 3,000 people,
Oh.
so
Oh,
it's
that's
gonna.
good.
Well, and I may be wrong, in terms, it might have been less, in terms of, people who are interested and then something happens and they complain about it later because they didn't actually participate. But it was actually a very interesting meeting.
So are they having another one? Is it
Um,
ongoing?
Yeah,
It should be
Probably.
ongoing, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
yeah, there's actually a community workshop on, let me take a look, September 12th perhaps? Hold on, I'll pull it up. Let's see if I can-
All right, so shall we approve these minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the meeting, Board of Health meeting from Tuesday, June 18th, 2019.
As
with the-
amended?
As amended with member identification for Eileen Siegel, and changing the date on the last page, page 5.
Yep.
Reschedule to August 22nd from August 20th.
Yep, I have those changes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So here is the flyer. Thursday, September 12th, 7 to 8:30 at Freeman Kennedy. There's a community meeting to discuss zoning, design guidelines, and investment in Norfolk Town Center.
Thursday, September.
The 12th, is that what you said?
Yep.
September 12th.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is on the town website.
7, Freeman Kennedy.
All right. Correspondence, is there anything we need to
No,
hear about?
actually, the correspondence was about the blueprint for public health excellence, recommendations for improved effectiveness and efficiency of local public health protection, a report of the Special Commission on Local and Regional Public Health. That was June of 2019, and that's what I mentioned to you folks, and what we'll have our meeting with Blake about.
Okay.
Nothing else special to go.
Well, I think we've completed our agenda here. Is there any new business?
Do we need to address any of these notice of public hearings with the parking? I got these notice of public hearings about special permitting. Why did I get zoning board of appeals emails? I don't know, was that
They
something?
each department, they're required to notify each
Okay.
department.
All right,
So,
so that's not something we need to address.
printed those unless you
Unless
have any,
something
Okay.
pops up that-
yeah, not
Okay.
unless there's anything that raises any concern.
Okay, and that whole Hill Street, Lakeville, all of that stuff, nothing that we have to look at. Perfect. I gotta stop reading all of my emails, apparently. Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the Board of Health meeting for August 22nd, 2019.
Sounds pretty official to me. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Do you
All
want
right,
to
yeah.
keep that?